I'm gonna try something different.
We're going live.
Thanks, okay. I just tried to. No, radar, I got. Sorry, Jordan, you're driving. Sorry, Jordan, you're driving.
Oh, that's good.
Good evening, Josh.
Hey, David, you have a computer. I've never seen you with a computer before.
I know. Oh,
Yeah, technology's moving on up.
I don't know.
How are you? What's Portland like?
I've been there lately, but I think it's okay.
Oh. So
About a month ago.
I was watching the Bill Knight Open. I was say play,
Yeah.
This weekend.
We watched some of that too.
and that's in Portland, right?
Yeah, it's at the Lotus and our daughter's college where she teaches. When we get to that. Important tape.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Athletic. In fact, I double checked, I said, let's see. I know. They didn't remember.
Portland State.
Yeah, so I watched the game last night with my sons.
Did you watch the one that was recorded for overtime?
No, we did not watch that. It's just, I didn't know they were playing that late. I said, well, missed all that.
You can share with me. I just have some far one. I'm sure that I don't necessarily. Reporters can put it on. I can thank you, yeah. Watching for
I think it
you're sure you're talking on all of them? Yes. Yes, yes. I'd like to call a meeting to order with roll call vote.
Ronnie Thomas,
Here.
Fox,
Here.
Schroeder. Here. Mac,
Here.
Burgoyne.
Here. Reading of the district mission vision statement by Dr. Strauss.
Our mission is to challenge all students to achieve their full potential through an engaging, responsive educational experience that inspires innovation, critical thinking, and collaboration. Our vision is to develop learners who are competent, compassionate problem solvers.
Our operating principles, information for one is information for all, no surprises, verify facts, think ahead, disagree, explain your thinking, and then commit. Are there any additions or amendments to the agenda?
I have maybe just one question. Did we make a decision for the December meeting? I know it's not on the agenda, but was it, did we decide on the second Monday?
The 12th.
The 12th, okay, thank you very much. Great.
And a work session on the 6th.
Okay, great, thank you.
I have a motion to approve the or to approve the.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. 5-0. Do we have approval of the minutes?
The minutes on page 4. From November 14th. Right after, there's a table. The section that starts with to approve the high school facilities project scope. Said that the motion carried 4-1 in parentheses, Schroeder abstaining. Should say Schroeder voting no.
Good. The first one. Anything else? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the 11/14/2022 regular meeting. As amended, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. 5-0. Thank you. Are there any visitors here tonight for public comment? Okay. Dr. Lindquist, superintendent.
Thank you. Again, we'll take a moment to pause and reflect upon what's going well November 28th in our school district. Middle and high school students, in collaboration with our FFA, honored area veterans at a Veterans Day Assembly on November 11th. Charles City Council member Delane Priestman and U.S. Army veteran George Cummins were guest speakers. The event was uplifting, as one might expect, but it was also very informative with some presentations by students that were very interesting. And while we did meet on November 14th, I chose to add this because my report went to press, so to speak, prior to that presentation on the 11th, and I wanted to call it out. I also have the privilege of attending the 76th annual All-State Festival concert on Saturday, November 19th. It was awe-inspiring, to say the least. Congratulations to our participants, Anders Haglund, Katie Peppers, Lily Egan, and in particular, Sophia Jensen, who was awarded the honor of playing first chair in the flute section. I was also able to see the Spirit team perform for their first time last week during halftime at the girls' basketball game. I must say, I was very impressed. Their performance was absolutely amazing, and it was evident they are well prepared for the upcoming state competition. I was also able to attend the Thanksgiving meal hosted by the students and staff at Carey Lane School last week. I was moved and inspired by the testimony presented by our students. Each had an opportunity to express their gratitude for something in their lives. This was just prior to our meal. As you might imagine, the guidance, support, and encouragement they received from the Carey Lane staff was cited by nearly every student. And there were very few dry eyes left by the time everyone had a chance to share. So it was really moving and also very delicious. That's all I have.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes,
FFA honor Veterans Day assembly on the 11th. How long was that?
I believe it lasted just over an hour by the time we arrived until it was finished and we all left. Just over an hour, I would say.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? All right, there are no committee reports. So we'll move on to administering discussing. Well, first we'll make a motion as to who should be the board secretary treasurer appointment for our next school year.
I'll make a motion that we, as administration recommends, that we name Evan Martin as the district secretary and treasurer for the 2022-23 school year.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to name Evan Martin as the district secretary and treasurer for the 2022-23 school year. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, passes 5-0. I will now administer the. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of Board Secretary / Treasurer in Charles City Community School District as now and hereafter required by law?
Yes.
Official.
Another year.
Okay, the 2023-24 calendar approval. No, I did. Oh, I did. I skipped a whole. Sorry, my computer skipped. Okay. Code of Ethics Policy Review, and I had trouble I had to download it on my computer, so I did run out some copies. 1, 2. So we're gonna review this and, we're supposed to do it every year at the annual meeting, and it was too long last time, so we moved it to this meeting.
That's a good question.
Mhm.
So for number 5, can you give maybe an example of what would entail, for each of that ethic?
Okay, number 5 is I will not use the school district or any part of the school district program for my own personal advantage or for the advantage of my friends or supporters. That would be like, if you were a textbook salesman and, you know, or something like that, and you came in and you tried to use your position on the board, not that you maybe couldn't, you know, be the salesperson, but you couldn't say, well, you know, I'm on the board, so you need to buy my textbook, or, you know, something like that. Or if you were trying to get something passed, if I had kids in school and I was trying to get something passed for the benefit of my child, I think that would fall under that too.
So like if we were trying to advance academic programs and I have kids in the school district, would that constitute it? No.
No, only if you're selling your textbook.
Only the textbook still.
Right.
Okay.
But or if you were trying to get a policy change to that benefits your child or something like that, maybe it would count. But, okay.
Wanting the well-being of all, that's the key.
When in doubt, you can abstain too, if you consider conflict.
Right. Okay, so Catherine, do you just wanna start reading these, and if somebody has a question about them, make sure to bring it up.
Each board member shall follow the code of ethics stated in this policy. As a school board member, I will listen. I will respect the opinion of others. I will recognize the integrity of my predecessors and associates in the merit of their work. I will be motivated only by an earnest desire to serve my school district and the children of my school district community in the best possible way. I will not use the school district or any part of the school district program for my own personal advantage or for the advantage of my friends or supporters. I will vote for a closed session of the board if the situation requires it, but I will consider star, chamber, or secret sessions of board members unethical. I will recognize that to promise in advance of a meeting how I will vote on any proposition, which is to be considered as to close my mind and agree not to think through other facts and points of view which may be presented in the meeting. I will expect in board meetings to spend more time on education programs and procedures than on business details. I will recognize that authority rests with the board in legal session and not with individual members of the board, except as authorized by law. I will make no disparaging remarks in or out of the board meeting about other members of the board or their opinions. I will express my honest and most thoughtful opinions frankly in board meetings in an effort to have decisions made for the best interests of the children and the education program. I will insist that the members of the board participate fully in board action and recommend that when special committees are appointed, they serve only in an investigative and advisory capacity. I will abide by majority decisions of the board. I will carefully consider petitions, resolutions, and complaints, and will act in the best interest of the school district. I will not discuss the confidential business of the board in my home, on the street, or in my office. The place of such discussion is the board meeting. And finally, I will endeavor to keep informed on the local, state, and national educational developments of its significance, so I may become a better board member.
Anybody have any comments or reflections on any of those? Okay. Code of ethics continues with, do you want to read this too?
In meeting with my responsibility to my school district community, I will consider myself a trustee of public education and will do my best to protect it, conserve it, and advance it, giving to the children of my school district community the educational facilities that are as complete and adequate as it is possible to provide. I will consider it an important responsibility of the board to interpret the aims, methods, and attitudes of the school district to the community. I will earnestly try to interpret the needs and attitudes of the school district community and do my best to translate them into the education program of the school district. I will attempt to procure adequate financial support for the school district. I will represent the entire school district rather than individual electors, patrons, or groups. I will not regard the school district facilities as my own private property, but as the property of the people.
Any comments or questions or clarification needed for any of those?
The comment I have is there's no number 1 in that section, so you should probably just address that.
Right.
We can make a change. Got it.
And I know Catherine just made it up, but it seemed to be correct.
I heard it say one.
That was just the subtext there.
Okay, in my relationship,
In my relationship with superintendent and employees, I will function in meeting the legal responsibility that is mine as a part of a legislative, evaluative, policy forming body, not as an administrative officer. I will recognize that it is my responsibility, together with that of my fellow board members, to see the school district is properly run and not to run themselves, and not to run them myself. I will expect the school district to be administered by the best trained technical and professional people it is possible to procure within the financial resources of the school district. I will recognize the superintendent as executive officer of the board. I will work through the administrative employees of the board, not over or around them. I will expect the superintendent to keep the board adequately informed through oral and written reports. I will vote to employ employees only after the recommendation of the superintendent has been received. I will insist that contracts be equally binding on teachers and the board. I will give the superintendent power commensurate with the superintendent's responsibility and will not in any way interfere with or seek to undermine the superintendent's authority. I'll give the superintendent friendly counsel and advice. I will present any personal criticism of employees to the superintendent. And finally, I will refer complaints to the proper administrative officer.
question? Okay, next one.
And finally, to cooperate with other school boards. I will not employ a superintendent, principal, or teacher who is already under contract with another school district without first securing assurance from the property authority that the person can be released from contract. I will consider it unethical to pursue any procedure calculated to embarrass a neighboring board or its representatives. And finally, I will associate myself with board members of other school districts for the purpose of discussing school district issues and cooperating in the improvement of the education program.
Any other discussion? This is the review of this policy, so. Hearing none. We need a motion and a second to approve the policy as presented and waive the second reading.
I'll make a motion to approve the policy as presented and waive the second reading.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the policy as presented and waive a second reading. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes 5-0. What? We're supposed to do that. Computer. Director of Technology, April, security update.
And as April's coming forward, I'll just remind the board that a request was made for a brief sort of an annual review of our security updates and our efforts to have the most secure functions as far as our technology and our cyber activity is concerned. And this is not to be confused with April's mid-year update on her annual goals as director for IT. She'll present that a little bit later in the year.
It's on the agenda.
Getting closer.
That's right.
Next one. Next one. No, no, next presentation, next PDF.
Okay, so I was asked to just give a brief update on cybersecurity. And so my exhibit is just a slideshow I presented to all district employees back in September. So I thought I would just kind of explain what was exposed to everyone else and give you a little bit more in depth on what these slides are about. The first slide was just kind of what is cybersecurity? Just making sure all staff knew what that term meant. People hear it all the time, but sometimes they don't actually educate themselves on what it is. And it is just the art of protecting networks, devices, data from unauthorized access or criminal use, and the practice of ensuring confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. And the thing I wanted to stress here is a school district has a lot of dependability on the network, devices, and data, and we need to make sure it's not just a term that the technology department needs to know, that everyone needs to know, personally and professionally. People need to be aware of cybersecurity. And then I kind of just gave another paragraph, again, instituting why they would need to know, because they have access to lots of personable, identifiable information. At the same time this was being created, our Central Rivers AEA had shared a document with all these categories and steps or action steps for schools to go through with the higher rise of cybersecurity and incidents with schools. They felt it was about time, and with a lot of our cyber insurance requirements, everyone kind of be educated on what they need to be doing in their districts. So we had gone through their steps and made sure that we were meeting everything they had recommended. And the first one was to reach out and get a copy of your cybersecurity insurance policy, look through it, work with your agents, and make sure you're meeting all their requirements. Our agent had required that we got all staff on multi-factor authentication, which is that two-step process. When you log into your email, you also then verify in another device it's you with like a code on a phone or a secret code you downloaded or something like that. So we did that. They had recommended that if you had a little bit higher revenue than what we have, you purchase an endpoint detection and remediation software. We didn't have to do that, but we felt in our best interest we should. And what that is it's a software that will run on every staff MacBook, and it's going to use the internal operating system security protocols that are already there. And it's going to look for behaviors and certain threats that could be taking place based on what your computer is doing, and then immediately shut down and notify and those kinds of things. We can also have it where if they use like a USB stick, it has to be encrypted, knowing they could be moving data onto it and moving it off. We can also lock down the whole device if we need to, if it's felt that it's under threat. So we went ahead and purchased that. We'll be getting that set up here very shortly. Multi-factor authentication, like I said, I went through and told all staff that we're required to do this now. And the next few slides are just showing them screenshots and step-by-step process to help them all out. I did have to, help a few individually, but most could follow my instructions. User security, awareness, and training. If you've read anything about cybersecurity, users are the greatest vulnerability to your network security, and training is obviously the most effective tool. So the Central Rivers AEA had a module already created on cybersecurity. It didn't take a lot of our staff's time. They could do it online through the same portal they do like bloodborne pathogens and other things they're already doing in districts. So they already all had an account for it. And it walked them through it, showed them a video of how an end user on the web can reach out to a sales department, grab an email letterhead from someone, adjust one little thing, they can start a domain up and change one character in it, send it to a user and ask for information. You think it's that user if you don't look at it or find out, to look at those little things like a misspelled word or a period in the wrong place in the URL that it's coming from. So this video kind of showed them that, kind of an eye opener. This is how easy this is to do. And then it asked them questions and had them kind of quizzed and made sure they understood what they were being trained on. And then they all, at the end of the training, needed to submit a certificate of completion. So we are like at 85%, last I checked, of our staff have done this, and we're working on the last few. And then we also reached out to our Iowa Office of the Chief Information Officer for a free security training that every school is supposed to get in the state of Iowa. And we're hoping to get that in an upcoming professional workday, something virtually they can do as well. The backup disaster recovery, it was again going through the steps. Have you documented where your data is, what your data is, who has access to it, how often are you backing it up, what is your plan? So we went through all of that again, and then scanning and assessment. I've done a few of these reviews for you guys, and a couple of years ago in 2020, we had hired a very thorough assessment tool. Just recently, we also went out to Security Scorecard and did another assessment. And then we had kind of like a legal assessment occur, and everything is so far checking. We're in a good spot. We've just had a couple little adjustments, recommended, but we're still feeling really good about how we've got most of our stuff taken care of. Go ahead. Like I said, the next few are just showing staff what multi-factor authentication is. You can keep going. And then how do you enable that on your Google account? Yeah, you can keep going. And more, there's 3 or 4 more slides. Yeah, those are just all steps that they went through. And then they were completed. And then I can pull a report of everyone who's enrolled. There was a link for all the staff to go to the AEA training that I discussed. And then the next slide. And then this again is just pointing out to all staff, depending on the role you have in this district, you have access to certain data, screens in our student information systems or things you have working with students. So it was like, you may have access to some of these fields and you don't realize when you add all these up together, you can steal your identity. So just pointing that out again, these things all shown together, don't ever have this laying around, don't ever have this on a little flash drive you can misplace and have data breach. And then the very last slide, I just went through, oh, I'm sorry, go up, there you go. Just going over through like key terms that people again hear, but may not know exactly the terminology. So what a data breach exactly is, and what a denial of service is, and what spoofing and phishing and malware and those things. So that is everything that was just shown to our staff, and that's where we're at. Any questions?
You mentioned that you had some software security program. What does that run? License fees, I think.
It is an annual license fee, yep.
Yeah.
I want to say it was 11,000 for the year, but it was for the 200 staff laptops, so, yeah. Yep. Any other questions? Okay,
That's great. Nice job.
thank you.
Thank you. Athletic director, mid-year goal presentation.
And now I'll take that other, and I got my certificate emailed. last week.
Got it.
Might have been one of those. All right, well, let's see, 2 weeks in and was here this morning and then at middle school basketball at 7:50, like 4:15 there, and then back at the high school, there's a girls' basketball game going on now. So as soon as I'm done with that, I'm gonna hustle back there. I realized I'm totally out of shape getting it back and forth. So 2 weeks in, if you reference the strategic plan on the school's website, it's on page 7. It's really small, so I made it much bigger. It says right now that the advisory team consists of the activities department, head coaches, and student leaders. What I found is that it really kind of, that verbiage, while I know what it includes, to me, it still kind of leaves out the fine arts directors, cheer and dance squad sponsors, and drama sponsors. So my position and what you guys approved was activity director, not athletic director. So I'm trying to kind of morph that to make sure that all of those programs are equally included in all the work that we're doing. So if you go to the next one, you'll see I am taking it as coaches and activity leads. So if you hear me use that verbiage, it is any coach, director, sponsor, or leader of activities within the Charles City Community School District. So if you hear me say activity leads, that would include coaches as well, but it's also sponsors and fine arts directors. Our lovely people up there, aren't they? They're great. They're handsome, gorgeous. All right, so on there are 3 strategic goals that I have tried to dive in full force in a whole 10 days. Goal 1, improve off-season culture for student athletes with increased participation and focus upon workout and preparation programs for in-season activities. First thing I did within the first 3 days of being hired, I guess, for this job was met with every single activity lead that was going to be a part of a winter season or a winter event. It's way too overwhelming to take all of them on at first, but met with girls basketball coaches, boys basketball coaches, wrestling coaches, choir director, band director, drama sponsor, cheer squad, met with all of the leaders of those programs. So I could learn what I don't know, which is a lot. This one specifically talks about off season. And I know that when this was created, it really meant like the strength and conditioning program. So I have a very specific meeting with Brian Bjorklund tomorrow morning to talk with him. And he's got some great vision on that. The second one is to increase climate and culture at sporting events. That's a good one for us. I like it. I don't know if you guys know this. I didn't know this, but the NEIC has a sportsmanship rating, and the officials are the ones who rate us on that. So I learned this at my very first AD meeting, and I realized that I was told that link gets emailed out to the officials the following day after a competition. We're finding that some of those emails get missed or found as not quite as important. So the CDO and me, which is OCD in alphabetical order, created these little scan cards. So I put this in the officials' room, like tonight's game. It's hanging up. There's 2 big, huge ones. They're supposed to scan this as they leave, and they can fill the form out right there. It's in the moment. They know how our fans were, how coaches acted, how fans acted, how athletes acted, and it's immediate feedback. I am and have been a coach, and some of you nodded your head that you knew about it. Why didn't I not? So this needs to be awareness to our coaches and our activity leads, where we're at. And if we're not aware of it, I talked to one of our head coaches at preseason, I better not say who, and they said, what? You're kidding me. We're rated, like, the officials fill this out? Why don't we know that? Bringing that to light. And then create a sustainable budget plan. Thanks, y'all, for putting me in that spot right now, but we're working on it. I've talked with some of the coaches about some really good ideas to get more of our students in the building and how we can do that with sponsorships of games, donation type things. We've got a lot in the works that I'm hoping we can work out, but it's pretty early on. So
Yeah, do you know if they have a booster club?
we do have a booster club. Yep, we at a very dynamic one, like there's a lot of people on the booster club, and they are the ones that run our concession stand.
Have you met with the booster club?
Yes, so in November, what I did is I was trying to learn and understand the activity director position. Mariah's out on maternity leave, so it was like, hey, here you go, do it all. So day-to-day operations, I met with coaches and activity leads for the winter season, and I'm trying to attend all firsts that are at home for sure. So first game, first concert, first whatever it is, if it's at home. I can make some of the away games, but obviously I can't guarantee all of them. Having a booster club presence, so I was at their meetings as well to make sure, along with making sure that I did my 4 teacher evaluations, formal observations in November as well. So I still got that done. In December, I would like to I got to take a breath and learn more of what I don't know. So just providing support for those in-season activities.
I have a question about the booster club. Does that include the music boosters and the fine arts?
No, 2 separate entities.
So you're not meeting with them?
I have not met at their meeting yet, and Mr. Sturdivant is going to invite me to their next one. So I've talked with him about that. But it is different. Moving forward, make sure to meet with coaches and activity leads prior to seasons or their event, but then also have a postseason or a post-event reflection. A lot of that will be revolved around youth program analysis. I know Mr. Mack here does a lot with youth in different sporting events and different activities, different fine arts programs. So who else? How are we promoting our youth? What parents are we getting involved? How can we make sure that our programs are worthwhile and have those problem solving sessions for increased participation? Nope, go. Because you all know this, but consistent research shows that it decreases the dropout rate, raises academic achievement, enhances community involvement, it improves attendance rate, graduation rates, it integrates students with their school and with their peers, and involvement encourages post-secondary or trade school education, or leading right out to the workforce. And if we can have more kids involved than what we currently do now, can Charles City change the story? So this is the Iowa high school winning percentage. It's not the participation, and this is revolved around athletics, this graph. But it's the winning percentage of schools based on their free and reduced lunch rate. So we fall, in the 50 to 60 category. And it's saying that schools in that category underperform compared to schools who have a lesser free and reduced. So how can we combat that? We can't change where we're at, but how can we combat it with our activities to get more kids involved? Whatever it is, and make sure that they're here, make sure that they're present, and make sure that we have a large participation rate. So that right there is really my personal goal, overarching goal of making sure that we have kids participating. In 2 weeks, this is what I've got so far. So what questions do you have? Be nice to me because it's been 2 weeks.
I think this is pretty ambitious. Doesn't surprise me.
I was going through this with Joe Taylor today, and he's like, well, what have you done to meet any of those strategic goals? I was like, nothing. It's only been 2 weeks. I was like, I haven't done one thing yet. He goes, you have the barcodes, which is instant feedback. You're talking to coaches about the sportsmanship, which is a huge topic in Charles City. You've made sure to include all activity leads and not just coaches. He's like, are you kidding me? You got to talk about that. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Anything
I'm
else?
surprised. I mean, I've known about that we get evaluated on sportsmanship before, I mean, prior to being on the board. So, I mean, I guess I had no idea that
Yeah, I knew that there was
something.
something out there, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how we were rated. I know, I always knew the talk of the town of where we fell. And it wasn't in a good spot. So I knew that, but I didn't know how. And to talk to other coaches that didn't realize that, it's like, that puts a whole new perspective. It's no different than our conditions for learning for academics. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, 2023-24 calendar public hearing. This is the time when anyone may speak to the board in support of or against any portion of the 2023-24 school calendar. Written comments also will be considered if received prior to the closing of the public hearing, which is right now. Were there any written?
I never received written comments.
I'd like to speak in support of this calendar. It's great to see that we again have another year of the graduation week before Memorial Day, which is great. So that families can spend Memorial Day with each other instead of that graduation. So nice job.
I'll also maybe add, if I could, President Frottinghouse, just that, we are gonna have school times adjusted. This is, going to allow us to, dismiss school a little bit earlier. And by starting a little bit earlier, we can more readily accommodate working parents who need to be on the job by 8 o'clock or thereabouts. You'll also notice that we've accommodated August 21st for the high school in conversations with our association leads. That will be professional learning, while conferences and open house will be held at the elementary schools and the middle schools. We also will have conferences in 2 evenings on Tuesday and Thursday in the fall and in the spring that will result in a full day on Friday of no school for teachers or for students. And so we have interspersed with this adjusted calendar 3-day weekends periodically for students and families, and in some cases for staff. And also we've distributed the professional learning more effectively throughout the year so that our director for academic services and oversee from a district perspective the progress we're making in that area. And again, we're looking at alignment and cohesion that will also then further our strategic plan goals. That is all I have to add.
So I noticed on spring break, we have, oh, okay, so it is the Friday, so the following Friday.
And that's that tricky situation I mentioned where we're going to have the conferences 2 evenings. And so that Friday then will give staff the day off. Teachers can launch their plans. Families can have their students to launch their plans as well. We haven't done it this way. It was input I gathered from the administrators, and I was able also to share it with our partners at Immaculate Conception and our association partners. We think this might work.
The 3 days of snow days, they don't change the end of school, right?
That's correct.
So if we have no snow days, we don't get out 3 days early.
That's correct. This is the calendar regardless. And the way I like to think about that is that because we exceed the calendar hours versus the required hours, without those snow days, we'll still continue our full days and get an extra 3 days of learning. On the other hand, the first 3 days then can be quote unquote forgiven because we're still within the required range for our hours. If we should have a fourth day, it will come off of the last April 12th, which is our last professional learning.
So we'll have school that day and then we'll start adding days.
And after that, we add days. And the reason I think that's important is we have to evenly distribute our professional learning for teachers throughout the year to have maximum impact. And we're gambling. There will be many years when we have 4 days or less snow, the majority of the years. And then every once in a while, we have a whopper that keeps us out 5, 6, 7, 8 days. And on those, we'll have to bite the bullet, but at least we can forgive the 5th and final professional learning day.
So you also talked about starting school times earlier. You know, right now we have, based on when school begins, we back up so many minutes before to allow parents to bring in students for breakfast. Will those times also back up as well?
So we'll get a little bit earlier start to our day. Now, the nice part is when we have to release students for activity buses, this will mean fewer instructional minutes lost in the afternoon. And as I mentioned, I think also maybe parent friendly.
So I've completed 5 years on the school board. And I think this is the most thoughtful, best calendar I've ever seen. So you did a really nice job.
It varies by this 10 minutes. Is it a 10-minute difference? Oh, 15.
Yeah.
So very
18.
minimal.
Sure.
Do the vote, do we close this and then do a motion?
Yeah, but that's, yeah, let's see if there's any other comments.
Are there any any other comments about the calendar? Are there any comments about the calendar?
I think you have to use this gavel pat when you ask.
Yeah. Okay. So, now we're considering approval of the calendar.
I make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 school calendar as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2023-2024 school calendar as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, bus bid.
So I remember this last year. Will we get these? I guess I'm chairs online or here or.
Jerry's trying to listen to New Hampton, I don't know if he's going for him, so he wanted to get the bids to you guys here, because hopefully he'll have it by July.
Okay, that's
So this
my
will be for
question.
next year.
So we anticipate with an approval of this now, we'll get it before school year of 2023. And then just so I'm aware, these have the cameras and security features that we typically get on all the buses, right? Air conditioning is a standard feature now, right?
Have the spots, make it the same. So
Seat belts, whatever. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. I make a motion to approve the Director of Operations, Jerry Mitchell, to order a 71-passenger conventional route school bus from School Bus Sales totaling $129,241.00.
Did you say?
I did.
There are a lot of seconds over here.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve Director of Operations Jerry Mitchell to order a 71-passenger conventional route school bus from School Bus Sales totaling $129,241. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, say no. All say aye. Yeah. Say aye. I know. 5-0. Petition language.
Ruth bids.
Oh, Ruth bids, I'm sorry. You guys, I'm tired, I both did that. Okay, are you filling in on that one too?
I just want to let you guys know that, we did receive two other companies that did bid on it, but Midwest Roofing was the low bid and Jerry's recommendation. Northern Cedar and Service Roofing also did bid, so we did receive 3 bids, but
So when would they start on this?
this would be summer projects.
So they'd start like May 20th, May 30th or whatever?
Yeah, I think as soon as school's out and the roof's ready to go.
And they have, I don't have the contract, but they have completion contract that they'll be done by the time school starts.
Yes,
Evan, do you know if we've done work with the Midwest Roofing? in the past?
that's usually,
Yeah.
that's a lot of majority of times.
We've done a ton, like they usually win, so, yeah.
We've been happy with the work.
I think so, yeah. I mean, Jerry could answer that question, but I haven't seen any leaks, so.
Did my deck.
I make a motion to approve Director of Operations Jerry Mitchell to accept low bids from Midwest Roofing for roof F at Washington Elementary, roof A at Washington Elementary, and the weight room roof as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Director of Operations Jerry Mitchell to accept the low bids from Midwest Roofing for roof F at Washington Elementary, roof A at Washington Elementary, and the weight room roof as presented. That happens to be at the high school. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. It passes 5-0. Petition language for high school facilities project. Is there a motion and then we can discuss? That's how we're actually supposed to do this. The move first and then discuss.
I'll make a motion to approve the above petition language as presented.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded to approve the above petition language as presented. Is there a discussion?
This is being used to get the signature.
And this is what, if we get the signatures, this is also what would appear on the ballot.
How many signatures we need?
25% of voters from the last election. I don't have the exact number in front of me at the time,
and then
so.
here, like one just,
So it'd be the last school election, so when we did school board, we had to find out the number of voters and be 25% of that. Not casted votes, people showed up at the polls.
And
So-
expect it to be around 500, but we are waiting on the authorities to give us the exact number after multiple requests, I might add, but it should be around the 500.
So it needs to be 25% of the last election.
School board
The
election.
last school board.
But do like absentee ballots count in that, or is it just the people going to?
Voters that turned out, so people that showed up.
The special election, would that be the only thing on it?
Yes.
Who pays for that special election?
Who knows?
You know how much?
I don't know the exact figure, but there's a cost associated with it based on the work that the auditor would have to do. I don't know the exact numbers.
Anybody know?
No, that's what I had.
Yes, we can find out.
We can get the information when you know.
She's actually right now.
hold up a card.
When would this start?
The petition,
Mhm.
Tomorrow, if it's approved.
If it's approved, it would start tomorrow.
and how does somebody sign the petition?
They would typically be asked, we meet tomorrow morning with our task force co-chairs.
I mean, do they know who to contact?
They
To
have
the
to.
public. Do they have to be requested?
They have to be voters within the school district.
Right, but I mean, if they're eager to sign,
Registered voters.
if they're a registered voter eager to sign, do they have to wait to be asked, or can they reach out? to somebody?
Oh, they can absolutely reach out, and all of the information will be available on our website in addition to what's already there on the lower half of our main page. And that information will be augmented and updated regularly. Among that being interested in signing a petition, here's who you contact. We also have to have some level of control because then we have to record
Sure.
so that we don't have any duplicates.
Right.
So we've already developed a little plan where we can kind of
Cross-check.
Petitions can be put in, businesses or public places.
And we have to be our business and partners in the community that are. Do we don't know that?
Well, they're gonna meet tomorrow morning.
That's what the plan is.
Yeah, consistent more grassroots, then the board has to approve it, but then there's our grassroots committee that's going to.
And that's a really nice reminder, Pat, because we really want this to reflect the majority of the community's desires. So we will never ask for someone to vote for or against. We will simply provide good, solid, thorough information so voters can make an informed decision.
Sure.
And because of the time frame, if this is going to pass, we need to get on it right away.
Right.
Because doesn't it have to be completed in January?
By January 9th.
January.
And my meeting pending board approval is scheduled for tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock.
So dates to think of, if we approve it as a board, the 25% of the eligible school board voters from the previous election. We need signatures for that. And then pending we get the signatures, then we're looking at the March 2023 special election for this language on the ballot.
Yeah.
For the community.
Yeah, and, obviously, what number of signatures you need, but you get more than that.
Sure.
Because
then-
they can be thrown out
Right.
if they're not eligible for some reason, or there is a duplicate done. Right, several, people. And because you sign a petition, doesn't mean what you're voting for or whatever. It just means that you believe that the people need to have the opportunity to vote.
Who wrote the?
So this came from Allers and Kearney, our attorneys. So Beth Groff, who I believe spoke at the last board meeting, I heard she took the feedback and I believe that's set for us.
And then like you were saying, Pat, as a board, it is our responsibility to approve things that come to us, but we want it to be community driven. And.
Yeah, not that we can't do something if we're not, but it's driven by the community, not by.
And as our code of ethics discussed earlier, kind of held to the standard of, we're trying to do what's best for all students.
Right, I thought that one where it says, the number one that doesn't have a one. Is giving to the children of my school district community the educational facilities that are as complete and adequate as it is possible to provide. And that's what we're trying to do, yeah.
The other question I was gonna ask is, Evan, I know a while back you did share what an individual taxpayer would be required to pay if this were to pass. Is that made public to our community?
School district website.
Okay, so the school district website is the best place for somebody who has questions to go to find out what that amount is. Remember what it was for like every year?
13 per 100.
And we'll be updating and revising that information in real time, literally as it comes into us day by day.
Sure.
So, for example, a taxpayer can look up the amount they might pay based upon the value of the assessed value of their home.
What did you?
Wasn't it $17 for the $100,000?
$150,000 assessed home would be approximately $17 per month. Now, that's slightly above average. The average home in Floyd County is valued at $132,000.
So the number looks big, but as a taxpayer, we're looking at about $17 a month on average.
Actually, that's slightly above average.
Still, I think that that's a lot of money.
Mhm.
We're doing it in somewhat would be considered inflationary times, going into winter. Yeah, and we go in March after uncertain expenses for energy in the winter time.
That's true, but I don't think it's gonna get better financially because everything's going up, isn't it? And
Well, I think inflation, actually, I read the other day, and it's leveling out to a certain extent. You know, I don't know, I'm sure I could read whatever I wanted on whatever website or newspaper I wanted to go to, so.
well, I just, how I feel, but I feel that we need to find out. We need to find out if our community wants this.
Well, right, and people are welcome, I think, also to set up tours of the high school to see. I think that, we need to do something, we need a auditorium for our kids, we have 4 kids at Allstate, we had a marvelous musical at the Charles Theater. And I liked it because it was kind of intimate, but I know they didn't have as much space that they needed to be able to do what they wanted to do too, so. And I think that, we've vetted the project, several times and got it down to the amount of money we think we can afford to do, and it's as modest as we can get it, I think, and still be able to do what we need to do.
And we
So-
also have a group that's still working and will continue to raise funds in addition
Right.
to that.
And like you said, Dr. Grove, I mean, nobody likes to see numbers like that. Nobody wants to have their taxes increase. But I think from a personal standpoint, I'm like, if I do have to increase my taxes, I want it to go towards the youth and the future opportunities that they have than some of the other things that our community has paid for. So, right.
There's a segment of the population that is capable of saying that. There's a segment of the population that is not capable, and do not have the resources.
Right, and they can vote no,
And they-
but this way, people get to have a say, and I think that that's one of the most important things.
right. And it's not just us sitting up here or a task force, it's letting the community speak.
So I hope people vote yes. Because I think our kids deserve it and they need it. Yes.
I guess the last thing would be that $27 million, $2.6 million is really not all that we've spent in the last now 10 years. So you add the cost of the middle school, the $47.6 million, that's a lot of money that we've spent, or we were asking people to spend. The first $20 million, we didn't ask them if it was okay to spend.
Again, it is time.
That's why it's important to let people vote, I think, personally.
Can I call for the question?
Yes. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the above petition language as presented. The question has been called. Roll call vote.
Grindhouse,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Berglund,
Yes.
Schroeder,
No,
Mac.
Yes.
4-1. The next is the bank signature cards approval. You're gonna talk about.
Yeah, so every year we need to update our bank signature cards on who is allowed to sign on behalf of the school district, money going out or money coming in. We usually do this right after we appoint the president and vice president. So this is my recommendation for this year. It would be President Roddenhouse, Vice President Fox, Superintendent Lundquist, myself, and Paige Ellsburn, who's our program director of finance.
So maybe Evan, just as a quick question, to write a check from the district, how many signatures does it require?
Write a check. Just 2 signatures on every check.
Right, so if somebody said, I want to write a check, they have somebody else to sign it before it.
Per the board policy, it's the president and the director of finance who only wants you to sign the checks. This allows if we need to renew a CD or I need to transfer funds. I can allow Paige or Ann to do that on our behalf.
I've signed one check in a year and a half, and that was for Evan moving into the district because he didn't want to sign a check that was going to himself. So I signed one. Just to give you a reference point.
I'll make a motion to approve Patricia Rottinghouse, Catherine Fox, Ann Lundquist, Evan Martin, and Paige Osmond as the district's bank signers and to update any legal documents as necessary.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve Patricia Rottinghouse, Catherine Fox, Ann Lundquist, Evan Martin, and Paige Osborne as the district's bank signers and to update any legal documents as necessary. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. 4 or 5-0. Human Resources Mid-Year Goal Presentation. That's you, Evan.
That is me, and I apologize, I look into this, that activities department in the description, but this is a finance and human resource. This is my mid-year goal update for my performance plan. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find the goals, I'm gonna give just a brief update, and then our biggest risk is maintaining buy-in to achieve a cohesive and aligned office of finance and human resources. So. Slide 3. So what are the annual goals? Ensure the central services administrative support staff are efficient and effective through the design and implementation of a staffing plan that distributes and aligns duties based on skills and strengths. And the second one is to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of finance and human resource department operations. So I started with some success areas that we've already had this year. In the Office of Finance, we developed and distributed an organizational chart. So I took some time to evaluate everyone's strengths. And as you can see on the handout, this is the current setup in the Office of Finance. So we now have an organizational structure that is strengths-based. We defined who does what in the Central Services Office. I spent some time over the last few months really looking at the segregations of duties, get state recommendations, and making sure we meet all segregations of duties to be compliant with law and Iowa code. Public funding clarity guidance on the website. There's a couple financial tools up there to explain how the different pots of money work. That's under the finance page on the district website. And then we align staff to positions that fit their strengths. So we had to do some movement within there, within the Central Services Office to get them to their strengths. Under human resources, we developed a request to post form, which is on the handout as well, if you want to review that, and also develop a recommendation for hire form. These are the 2 points that I'm crossing before we bring any recommendations to the board, with the board being the third eyes on the approval of any appointments. Some things in here that we're asking is it legal, is it ethical? Do they meet all licensure requirements? Are case needs met based on different criteria? We enhanced and reviewed several policies and procedures. You guys have seen a lot of those policies and procedures come across your board table. We established what's going well, board recognition, so those awards get handed out at the end of the month. And then we created evaluation systems for central services staff. Believe it or not, when I first started here, they had not been evaluated in over 20 years. So I created a way for them to have annual goals and evaluation criteria to hold them accountable. Next slide. So in touch base on some noteworthy accomplishments we've had kind of within the last few months to the last year. We've partnered with local childcare, utilizing our brand building for additional childcare in the community. Our end of the project is just about to be complete, waiting on one little piece. So that's exciting news. We have successfully reduced the special ed deficit 2 years in a row. The property tax cost to the district for the Charles City citizens actually decreased this year 0.59%. You can see that on your property tax statement. We received $100,000 in additional mental health funding. We increased our unspent authorized budget, also our reserves, 2 years in a row. We collaborated with district stakeholders to rebalance all categorical funding to reduce general fund expenditures and assist with academic growth. Implemented 21st century accounting practices with the Office of Finance. We moved to a lot more online platforms, expedited board reports. things like that. And we've also received $224,000 in additional therapeutic classroom funding. Where are we heading? So one of the things that I'm working on is developing a research-based strategy to evaluate the major cause of turnover and tie this to expenditures in the district. I'm currently working with different stakeholders on developing a data-driven proactive response to prevent turnover that's financially sound. Some of the things I'm looking at is we have subs. Why do we have subs? People aren't here. How much time is going into just hiring? Trying to keep people within Charles City Schools. We're going to continue to align back of house finance work with front of house initiatives, providing more aligned cohesive district. What does that mean? Money drives a lot of our academic successes, but if we're not on the same page of the goals, academic goals in the buildings, and I'm not aware, it's really hard to be aligned and cohesive. And I am working on a detailed popular annual financial report, so something that is easily readable for the community and the board. I'll have that ready for you guys on December 6th for first review and show you some templates of what it could look like at processing. That's what I have. Comments, questions?
I think that last one was a really good idea. Easily understandable.
And I'll have the history trends of transportation costs, our enrollment trends, property tax trends, so forth on this.
So I have just a question about one of the forms that you mentioned. In the beginning, you talked about reviewing licensure and applying for a position. Is that as part of the hiring process, like your office is going to do that? Is that something the superintendent does? Is that something, I mean, I guess, how is that reviewed and checked off?
Yeah, so the request to post document comes from the principals or the leader in charge of trying to hire a position. And then the recommendation of hire also comes from them. So I'm putting it back on the individual leader to verify that they have checked all the licensures.
So I'll just pick up the line. So in the example of the middle school, so Mr. Taylor would be responsible for putting out the position and then reviewing any position that he's decided to hire, that they have all the proper.
Correct. So if he checked yes, I can look at that, cool, he's reviewed the licensure, and then if there's a discrepancy or we uncover it, I also have a place to go back to, like, are you reviewing these? It's accountability piece.
Who's the, I guess, the first or final say for if somebody wants to rehire a position?
So it's the superintendent.
So like somebody vacates the position, right? And then in here it says, one of the options is it's a position needed to be hired, like that. Like, I don't remember the exact terminology. but something like that. Anyway, just like, what's that process to?
So I get these forms in, I look at it, and if I already know that it's a kind of a no brainer, if you want to say that, I'll go ahead and put a green on there, and then Danielle will post the job.
Okay.
If it's questionable or we're having conversations, I'll go to Ann, and then we'll get a little team together to review the program or the position to see if it's still needed or not. If we decide it's still needed, we'll post it.
Okay, thank you.
So we have not used these questionnaires yet.
I rolled these out at the beginning of the year.
Then we use them.
Yeah, so this last 7 or 8 positions that you guys have approved have come from these forms.
Have any questions been added or removed as a result of the experience?
Some more clarity on some of my wording on some of them. But nothing's been removed.
So this is the most updated.
Anything else? Any other questions? That's good. Thank you. Good job. Now we get to talk about the financial report.
Yeah, you'll see that our expenditures are a little bit up compared to where we were last year, but a lot of this is driven by our pay increases for staff. So I'm just saying, with the SB alarm, we're seeing some increase in monthly expenditures there. Other than that, still continuing to work with now Dana Sullivan on the activity fund. She's drafting a really good plan, and we're continually reviewing that. Revenue is coming in as expected, and I'm pretty happy with what we're sitting at this time.
So, in terms of tax revenue, I mean, are we Was our estimated number, the correct number that we received in October?
And tax revenue. Is pretty darn close.
Any other question? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the October 2022 financial reports.
There's a second.
A second.
Okay, been moved and seconded to accept the October 2022 financial reports as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Number 20. No, nothing.
Yeah, so this came to my attention recently. So we are owners of that buffet, the school district are owners of that piece of land that they farm every year at plant crop in north of town. And currently Jim Lumberg signs for with Floyd County Farm Services Agency. When they put their crop in for insurance purposes and when the crop came out. With him retiring at the end of the year, he'd like to move this to Brad Spurgeon. To let the Floyd County Farm Service Agency know, like, for example, May 25th, we got poured in.
I'll make a motion to approve Brett Spurgeon as the Charles City Community School District designee for certification on crop acreage at the Floyd County Farm Service Agency.
He has been approached about this, I assume.
Yes, he has.
And also,
Been moved and seconded to approve Brett Spurgeon as the Charles City Community School District designee for certification on crop acreage at the Floyd County Farm Service Agency. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Any board member comments?
I enjoyed the state school board convention and having a lot of interesting speakers and events. The most amazing thing to me was the symphony from Lindmar. They were as good as any symphony I've seen perform anywhere professional. There was a lot of other good stuff too, but that was way. They were very, very good.
I think it's good with the what's going well that Dr. Lindquist has focused on a variety of topics because it kind of points to what Dana was saying is the communication that there is a lot going on in the school district, not just what maybe we think of as athletics, but music and FFA and spirit team. So I think it's important, like Dr. Lundquist, that you continue to point out the things that we're doing and to communicate to the community. You know, we try to create something for everyone. And so if, you know, you find that your child is bored at home, like reach out if you want to get it.
And there are lots of different things. we need to do.
There's a concert a week from tonight, I believe. And it will be in the gym, the Comet
Music,
gym.
singing,
I think it's everything. Could be wrong, but I think it's band orchestra. I know it's
quite
quite
a few different things.
But since they have no other place to perform, they'll be in the Comet gym.
Anything else? Meeting's adjourned at 7:30.
and we learned that December 16th. What time is December 16th?